I wanted to be in a band immediately. That was my goal straight away, was to be the guitarist in a band. I didn't want to be a singer. I didn't want to be anything other than just, I wanted to play guitar in a band. And I had a couple of friends at school who didn't have quite the same maybe obsession about music that I did, but they were definitely kind of into it enough that I kind of convinced them to do something.
Cool. Well, I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the album coming out
Sure.
in like 2 weeks or so. Less than
Yeah,
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, less than 2 weeks now. I think we're on a 10-day countdown.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, I'm sure.
It is, yeah.
Awesome. So, first off, where were you born and raised, John?
So I was born in a town called Reading, which is a totally like nondescript town on the south coast of England.
Got a big festival there?
Yeah, there is a big there, but I mean, that's it, and even that, it doesn't really give the town or city any kind of identity. It's just one of those places that you've got to be born somewhere, and that's it. It has no real kind of identity to it at all.
Interesting. Even having that festival there doesn't really. I mean, I guess it's kind of similar to like Coachella Valley, where it's like they have that festival,
Yeah,
and it's kind of small in the middle of the desert.
yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, Reading's like definitely not the desert, but it's, if you've seen, I guess, like the English Office, like
Yes.
it's that kind of place. It's not far from there, so it's like,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
grey, right?
Uh-huh.
But I was raised near Southampton, which is kind of in the middle of the south coast of England. Did a lot of my formative years of gigging and stuff around that kind of area.
Okay.
And then moved to London, and that's where I met Kitty, and that's where the band formed, and we kind of took it from there.
Okay. Very cool. Do you come from a musical family, artistic family, anything like that?
I don't at all. I don't know where the kind of like musical obsession and kind of creative side particularly came from. I am actually, there's some creativity in the fact that growing up, I was really into the idea of being creative anytime I could, and I really liked drawing. I was terrible at it, really bad. I loved doing it. And my nan, so my mum's mum, she used to really encourage me with it and sit down and kind of help me do it. And I used to just kind of sometimes, the weekend, get up and be like, I just really want to draw something today. And having someone go, cool, let's do it. Let's get everything out and do it properly. Like, what are we going to draw? And really look at it and really think about what you're doing. I think maybe just that kind of early encouragement with that kind of stuff did make me think that when you are being creative, there doesn't have to be a purpose to it other than just trying to do it really well for your own sake. And the value in it wasn't really about the final result. It was really about like the intention and the process. And so there was no real music in my family at all. My parents liked music in the way that just normal people would turn the radio on and listen to whatever's like in the charts and stuff at the time. So, my dad was a big soft 80s rock fan. Like anything with a really reverby saxophone in was his thing, which just didn't excite me in the slightest. Not my thing at all. But for some reason, they bought me a acoustic guitar when I was about 7 years old, something like that. A really small, just a kid's toy guitar, really, just one toy, and one you could actually play notes on, but it was really a toy. Immediately discovered that I was actually left-handed, so it was all strung the wrong way around. And went,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and went to a local guitar teacher and learned how to play Summertime Blues by Eddie Cochran. That was the very first thing I learned, and I loved it. I was really excited by it. Kind of carried on developing a little bit over the next year, 2 years, something like that. And then that guitar teacher, she stopped teaching, I think, to have kids, and I ended up with someone at my school who just wanted to do classical Spanish style. I totally dropped out. I had no interest in it whatsoever. It just wasn't what I wanted to do.
Well, with the like when you figured out you're left-handed, it was acoustic guitar, so you could just flip it over. or
That's exactly
okay.
it. But the classical guitarist, it made me stop playing. So I didn't play from the age of 9 till maybe 13. And when I was 13, I really wanted to start playing again. Had got into rock music. I was into like Metallica and stuff like that. And I really wanted to play. And my older brother had a friend who had a whole box full of tapes that he would let me borrow. And I was listening to all this stuff. And the nearest guitar shop that I could get to on a bus, it didn't have any left-handed guitars, just right-handed guitars. So
Oh
I was
wow.
like, well, and then eventually when they did get one in, it was 5 times the price. So I was like, well, I'll just learn right-handed. I'm just going to start again. And that's what I did. So I bought with my parents' help and some like Christmas birthday kind of like begging, got a really cheap, it was called a Marlin Sidewinder, the guitar, and got a right-handed guitar and a guitar book, and kind of taught myself how to play everything the other way around.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
yeah,
So now you play righty because of that?
yeah, I play right-handed, and I kind of blame that on never really actually getting that skilled, and I feel like it held me back there. I'm not that great with either hand. I can play a little bit both ways, but I don't think I'm great either way. And it's the same with my writing. I can write with either hand, but neither of them are particularly legible. So yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm similar in the way that when I throw left-handed, and that's it, because my parents didn't they didn't understand like left hand, like it just wasn't something that they even thought about. So it
Yeah.
was like when I went up to like bat or hit, it was
Mhm.
like, oh, they flip me. No, you're doing it the wrong way. You know what I mean? So now I swing right, but I can
Yeah.
swing left. But I bet
Yeah.
I would have been much better if I just stayed left, because I don't even
Yeah.
need to try anymore.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Like, because I've interviewed other lefty guitar players that would do what you do as far as flipping the strings, but even on like a Stratocaster, just flip them over, or try
Yeah.
to learn how to play like a power chord like upside down. Like Chris Rowe from Ataris does that. He plays like upside down power
Yeah.
chords.
Yeah, I've seen
Just
that. There's a band called Curb Dog who are from Ireland who did that. But my exposure to music, I think, because my parents weren't really into guitar music at all, my exposure was pretty much kind of mainstream. Like it was whatever was in Kerrang magazine, and I was always attracted to kind of the bigger bands, I think, rather than underground stuff at that time. And the bigger bands, generally, people are doing stuff in a pretty conventional way. So I did,
sure.
other than Jimi Hendrix, I didn't see anyone who was doing something like left hand.
Lefty.
And
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix seemed so kind of impossibly good that I thought that's like, why,
Yeah.
that's fine. Jimi Hendrix is doing it because he's amazing. I'll
Yeah.
stick
Or like Paul
on the left.
McCartney. You're like, okay, I get
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. So I'll stick with just a right-handed guitar and go from there. And I was always much more into the idea of writing songs and expressing something kind of more internal than specifically trying to figure out flashy guitar parts. I was never one for kind of like doing the whole Van Halen thing.
Right. It was
I
just
try.
like a sorry to cut you off, but like a vehicle to write your own songs,
A
essentially.
100%. As soon as I started learning, I started writing and had a little kind of tape player with a microphone in, and would play ideas into that, and then got a Walkman that had a microphone in it and would play the tape player while playing along to that, and figured out this kind of multi-track tape concoction of sounds that it was basically a big ball of hiss, but I could hear just enough of what I'd done to be like, yeah, those parts go together. And I loved the fact that when you put two things together, it became bigger than those two things. And I just got kind of obsessed with the whole recording and arranging thing. And I've always been into the recording side. And that's, in Saint Agnes, we do pretty much everything ourselves when it comes to production, recording and mixing. And a lot of that
Wow.
comes from my sort of passion for doing that. It's something I've always wanted to do.
So, I mean, aside from doing your own things, have you, or like, do you help other bands with that as well, or is it just you just kind of done it for yourself?
Yeah, so I've mixed a couple of albums for a few other bands.
That's
Nothing
cool.
that's kind of like nothing that's probably hugely kind of translated in terms of kind of like numbers and stuff, but it's been really formative for me, and it's really interesting seeing stuff from the technical point of view, purely the technical point of view, because I've always written and recorded everything of my own pretty much. And so I'm wearing kind of two hats, but it was interesting going into just mixing someone's record where you just get sent the songs and you
you just get all the stems of the song, right?
You get a list of notes saying we would like to do this with it, do that with it, and you hear it really differently, and you realize how being external to it, you can make really quick, swift decisions where you're like, well, that bit just doesn't sound great. I'll mute that part, and then when you send it back, say, here's the song, I've taken out the guitar part that I didn't think really worked. If you want to add it in, let's talk about it. But sometimes people come back and be like, okay, cool, I like what you've done there. But if that'd be my own music, I might have spent 2 weeks deliberating about that guitar part. That
right, yeah, muting it, listening to it in the car for a week, putting it back in. Like, I can see how that could get really because you want it to be the best it can be, but I could see how you could almost like overproduce if it's your own
absolutely
stuff.
Absolutely. Well, that's why Kitty and I make such a good partnership, is the fact that she's also quite technical, but her process is more instinctual, I'd say, than mine. I'm more likely to be like, well, there's 5 different things we could do with this, so why don't we try all 5 and see? Whereas Kitty's like, no, I just know that I want it to go this way. I don't need to hear the other 4. Let's just go with it, and then we'll decide if it's shit afterwards. But if we think it's good, let's do it and move past the next thing. And that's really healthy for me, because it stops me over analyzing. But then it works both ways in the fact that I can say to Kitty, well, we could do this, this, or this, and give her some options to kind of like theoretically choose from, even if we don't actually do them all. She can be like, oh, I didn't think we could take this in that direction. That sounds exciting, let's do it, So it's a good combination where one of us is kind of more obsessive and technical and the other one's more kind of big picture focused.
Yeah, exactly, because you can instead of saying, oh, we should do it this way and then that's it, it's like, here's 5 options, what do you I'm kind of dabbling with all these, what do you think? Oh, I think option 2 is the best, let's run with
absolutely
that. When it comes to like you said you were songwriting and then like recording yourself via these cassette to another boombox or whatever it may be, like at what did you start a band? Like was that in high school, or like when do you start kind of playing with other people, or what was your real like first band you got into?
I wanted to be in a band immediately. That was my goal straight away, was to be the guitarist in a band. I didn't want to be a singer, I didn't want to be anything other than just, I wanted to play guitar in a band. And I had a couple of friends at school who didn't have quite the same maybe obsession about music that I did, but they were definitely kind of into it enough that I kind of convinced them to do something. And so I had a friend who was a guitarist and another friend who wanted to be a singer, but basically he just wanted to be
the front man.
He just wanted to be. I'm still really good friends with him now, and he would find it hilarious that I'm still talking about him in that way, because he very, very enthusiastic, and he could hold a note, but his problem was he just couldn't count, so he was never coming in on time at all. And it was just it was a car crash every single time. He'd be like, come in with total confidence, and we'd be like, no, Tom, not, it's another 4 yet, every time. It was like a joke. But yeah, we rehearsed really hard. We found my older brother had a friend who let's backtrack. My older brother was fully into electronic music and DJing and stuff like that, and it couldn't have been further from what I liked. We shared no common musical ground whatsoever. But he had a friend who was into rock music, who was older than me. And when you're 14 at school, the difference between a 14-year-old and like a 17-year-old is pretty significant.
Massive, right? Yeah.
You don't socialize at all. But I said to him, like, can you come and hang out with us kids and play drums just to see? And actually we really got on, and we ended up with him in the band. So there's a few of us from my year and this older kid playing drums, and we put on a little show at the school, like after school. Like we sold some tickets, did it for charity and everything, and did a bunch of covers. like Beatles songs and Bon Jovi songs and Green Day, and you know, just a whole mixture of just stuff that we liked, because we were 14 and had basically no real kind of exposure to the world of music that was out there, and we just picked these kind of major hits from,
Right, of course.
like,
Yeah, the big songs.
big songs, but very little taste, and we didn't play them very well and everything. But I found the whole excitement of the build up to the show, the rehearsing, and the really just trying to make something that was going to be memorable for the audience and for me. I just found that really exciting, and that hasn't really changed. You know, that was the beginning of something that's become a lifelong obsession. And whilst the other guys kind of fell by the wayside, and when we got older they all went off to university, I didn't want to go to university. I was like, I want to be in a band. And I can't remember how, but I just heard that there was this like hardcore metal band looking for a bass player, and I auditioned for that, got the job, and I auditioned for it like I was auditioning for Metallica. Like, I was super prepared, really thought about what I was going to wear, like what I was going to say, turned up, and it was just the most low-key kind of like opening a beer. I don't think we even really played, you know, it was super casual. They were like, are you available? I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay, you're in.
But you never know, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's the way that obviously showed that you are passionate, and they probably even saw that right away. You're like, okay, I'm you know, if you probably walked in with more confidence than maybe someone else that had no, kind of just winged it, right? I mean, you're like, okay, I know the songs, I know what I'm gonna do,
yeah,
I've got the vibe going, and then
yeah,
these people are probably like, oh yeah, like,
yeah,
are you available? You know, you could have
yeah,
went the other way, right?
yeah. I think that's pretty much what happened. I think that they were used to kind of people who were pretty flaky, and the fact that I was like on time, knew the songs, and was just really, you know, I was really keen. I just wanted to do it. I was like, you know, whatever you want to do, I'm in, let's go. Like, and it was this real kind of like punky hardcore thing, kind of like a bit like the band Will Haven, and it was super underground, and it was stuff I didn't really know much about. It was a real kind of learning process for me. One, I was playing bass, which I'd never really played outside of just messing about at home, and the other one was I was playing a form of music that I wasn't totally familiar and comfortable with, and it was a lot less melodic than I was used to before. It's a lot more just like, here's a quiet part, and now we're going to play it 10 times louder, and we're going to go fucking crazy. And that was it. That was the goal. And I really enjoyed it. And we went and we did a UK tour, played to probably about 15 people at each venue. But I just thought it was,
But you're on the tour, right? I mean,
yeah,
you're on the road. That's huge.
yeah, I saw something in it that I really liked. But I also was like writing my own music at the time, and had started to get into using a computer to record. So I'd moved beyond the 2 tape player thing, you know, and was now like multi-tracking on kind of like early kind of Pro Tools type stuff at home, and had made music that was kind of like a much poppier version of Nine Inch Nails kind of approach, basically.
Okay.
And the drummer in this hardcore band really liked what I was doing, and we ended up separating from the other guys and doing our own thing. You know, we did them alongside each other. So I'd found this drummer that I really liked. That was the one instrument I couldn't play. I could play bass, could play guitar. I was singing by that point and producing it. So I was like, this is what I want to do. And that was really the beginning of me being a proper musician that was actually like, I have something I would like to hear that I'm not hearing in the world, and I know how to make it, or at least have a good idea of how to achieve some of those sounds. I need to get better at doing it. I'm not a very good singer, you know, my songwriting is okay, but it still needs refining. But at this point I was like, I could put something on and go, this doesn't sound a million miles away from the stuff that I like. I just, if I could now do this in a big studio and have someone mix it who was really good, I think this would be actually good. Maybe I was a little deluded, because listening back, I can kind of hear that there was maybe not as far on as it was, but I had some self-confidence there that allowed me to move it forward, and end up getting a terrible record deal.
Oh,
But
really? So this is all
yeah,
before Saint Agnes, though, right?
this is all before Saint
Okay.
Agnes. But it was like I got a really bad record deal that didn't really help, but I learned loads about the music industry and what not to do in that process. There was very little money involved, but there was just a lot of me kind of being too young and too kind of unsure of myself and letting control be handed over, creative control be handed over to other people, and ending up with something that objectively I think was not as good as what I'd started out with. And from a personal point of view, just I didn't like it and I didn't care about it, and it hadn't scratched the creative itch at all. So suddenly I had an album in a shop that I just didn't care about at all. Like it just didn't feel like I'd had anything to do with it. And so I ended that and
Oh, so
spent a
after you
lot.
put the album out, I mean, you get signed, you have an album in the store, and
Yeah,
it just wasn't, what you wanted
just
it to be. So you didn't have the passion for it. So you just ended the project at that point.
yeah, just ended it. Just didn't want to do it anymore. It just felt unfun. The other guys in the band didn't really love what we were doing. It just, everything just felt like it had gone a bit wrong. It felt really exciting before, and really it was just naivety that I thought that, oh, record companies, they know what they're doing. Oh, they'll put us with a producer, the producer will make it sound 10 times better. I didn't realize that that's not a given, and that a producer is only as good as your relationship is with them. And if you work with a really good producer and you've got time to develop a relationship, and they see where you're trying to take something and go, I see where you're going with it, but I'm going to help you take it even further, that's a great production partnership. If you've got a producer going, well, I see where you're going and I don't like it, I think it should go over here, you're just always, it's always going to be compromised, you know. And that's basically what happened. And the main lesson that I've learned, that I've carried on into Saint Agnes now, and has been a hugely important part of what Kitty and I do, is to just do everything ourselves as much as we possibly can. Not just because we think we end up with a better result, but I think that it's because for us, creating music is all about scratching a really like personal kind of itch of like, I want to say something, I have a sound in my head that I want to put out into the world, and I want it to come as much from me as possible. As soon as someone else is involved in that process, it doesn't feel that personal and it doesn't satisfy on a deep level. Like I know other bands who they're totally happy to just write simple songs that they then go with a producer and they turn into something else, and they can really enjoy the magic of something that started off as this small idea become something much bigger through someone else's work. I understand that, but we just don't find that satisfying. We need to kind of know that every note in there was us, and every kind of like decision that was made was us. I've talked about this before, and I always say that it's, if you want to say I love you to someone, it feels like, why would you have someone else involved in the process of telling someone you love them? You know, you've got something personal to say. There's no better way and person to say it than you, in your voice, in your way. You know, that's,
I love that.
Otherwise it's meaningless. You know, if you ask a corporate entity to come along and figure out how to tell someone you love them, they might put on the greatest show to do it, but it doesn't really mean anything. You know,
It's not authentic.
it's not authentic. That's the word I've been trying to figure out for the last 10 minutes of.
No, but it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, but when you good, especially if you're young and if you don't know the industry, I guarantee a lot of people listening to this will be like, oh wow, so if you get signed, like I mean, I grew up in an era of like, if your band got signed, like you just assume that was you were like making millions and you're gonna tour the world, you know what I mean? There's just like this concept of what that looked like 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's just not at all what it really is. Because you only saw so much, especially with the internet now and everything else. But it was like, oh, so and so, and it was almost like a stigma if you signed to a major label. It was like, you brought up Green Day. I remember they signed to a major label and everyone's like, you guys suck now. And it's like, well, they put out 2 albums before, they were touring and selling out everything. It made sense for them to sign to a major label. And but anyway, like getting signed, you're probably in the same position where it's like, oh, these people probably know what they're doing because they have experience. So I'm gonna let them kind of take the reign. And then it doesn't turn out how you like it. And you're like, well, I guess because I just gave over all the creative control elsewhere. It wasn't what I intentionally started with.
Exactly. I think it's you just need to think about, why are you doing this? If you're doing it to make money, then maybe signing with a major label and trusting every single thing they say might be the best option. If you're doing it for artistic reasons, then you sign with whoever lets you maintain your artistic direction, whether it's independent or a major label or doing something yourself. It doesn't really matter. The ultimate goal, if you're trying to create art, then you need to look at who's going to allow me to just be as artistic as possible. You know, otherwise there's always going to be pressure to compromise what you're doing. And exactly like you said with Green Day, I think that they were already writing radio friendly songs, or songs that were always going to do well on the radio before they were on a major label anyway. So it wasn't like they didn't really need to change. They were kind of major label ready because that's what they liked and it's what they were already doing.
They just had a bigger platform now because they have more money to put into the marketing of their band and everything else.
Exactly. It would have been really different if they as a band had been like a really kind of scuzzy, aggressive, crazy, mad thrash punk band, and then they'd signed to a major label who had then gone, guys, can you write a radio song and we're going to put you the producer who's going to help you to do it. That's not going to work. And that's where people come up against those kind of differences. So there are some people that just love more mainstream stuff and that's what they're going to be writing, and it makes perfect sense for them to go down that route. And for other people who are doing it for a more personal reason, it's not going to suit them. But that being said, we're signed to a major record label. Which
is awesome.
It's great. We're with Spinefarm Universal. After having done 1 album and 2 EPs on our own label, we then signed with the major, and we've done it specifically because the A&R guy who is at Spinefarm, his name's Dante Benuto. He is someone that has been in the music industry for a long time, and who he's not jaded by it at all. He just retains an incredible enthusiasm for people that have a vision about what they want to do. So he's been involved with Metallica, he's involved with Ghost, you know, he's involved with really, really big acts, but you will see him every night of the week at underground shows, checking out new bands. He's always interested in what's going on, and he met us right at the start of Saint Agnes before we'd really done anything. He saw us at a show and we began a conversation that lasted like 6 years before we signed with the label. And it took us that long and him that long for us to go, okay, we're all on the same page now. He respects that we know what we're doing, and we respect that he would only ever make a suggestion or get involved in something because he really believes it's best for us. So he'll only introduce us to an engineer or producer or something like that if he actually thought there's some value in the conversation that we're having, you know. So we trust that he cares about our project and cares about us. And ultimately he just said, you know Saint Agnes better than anyone else, go and make a record, record it yourselves, produce it yourselves, do your thing, you know it better, and just give us the record and we'll release it. It was very simple. So there was absolutely zero involvement in terms of being told, oh, okay, can you take some swear words out of this song because we want to put it on the radio or anything like that. It was just, okay, you've made an album, that's cool, what do you think the singles are? You know, they asked us, they weren't telling us this is going to be the single, this is what's going to happen. Total faith in what we wanted to do. So we've been very fortunate in signing with a major label who have that level of trust in what we're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're like they're a major label, but they almost operate kind of more like a grassroots, like indie label. I mean, the bands that they have are, I mean, you have like a Treyu and Anti-Flag, I think, assigned to them, and but not only that, but like Killing Joke. I mean, just like the roster, Dragon Force is like, it's like these bands that I feel like they just kind of more or less say, we want you because we like what you're doing. We don't want you because we want to make you look or sound a certain way. Like they're signing bands because they dig what they're up to, not because they look at something and are like, huh, well, this is decent, but I can make it better if I, put this guy with them, or, it's, I think that's such a cool aspect of that record label.
Yeah, definitely. All of the bands on the label have a very strong identity. Either if they're established bands, then Spinefarm have taken them on kind of further on in their career, or if they're a newer band, they're still a band that has a very strong identity in what they're doing, and that's something that they seem to respect. And we feel that our identity is just, it is what it is. It's not contrived. It's just, this is what we like. We wouldn't want it to be any other way, and we were doing it this way before anyone came along, to help us out. So we're just going to carry on doing our thing the Saint Agnes way, and that's very artistically satisfying. And hopefully, once this record's released, we'll see the benefit of signing with a bigger label that has a bigger distribution network. That's always been the problem in the past, is that someone in America wants to buy the record and we were selling it ourselves, so the vinyl was £20 plus postage plus import duty,
Oh yeah, it just adds up so fast, right?
If someone was spending $50 to get a record, which is just, and it takes 3 weeks to get there. So being with a bigger label, they will have stock in the States ready to go. And if someone wants to buy the record, like, they'll be able to get their hands on it much easier. I'm not saying it's going to be in every single record shop in the country. I'm sure it won't be. But to
have the distribution, I mean, that's the key, right? If they just, or if you put it out yourself and somebody ordered it off your website, you're like, okay, I got to figure out where they live, got to go mail it out myself. And like you said, it's going to cost a ton of money just to ship it out. Whereas they have their own, have their whole operation. They know
absolutely. And in Europe, it's been a nightmare since Brexit. Like, it's before Brexit, if someone in Germany bought a record, you could just post it and it was no different than posting it to another UK town. But now,
I didn't know about this.
Brexit, means that us and the rest of Europe are totally separate.
Right.
And so when we post something, it takes way longer. You have to fill out a lot more paperwork. And then when it arrives at the other end, no one knows the rules. And sometimes when it arrives at the other end, the recipient is then charged an import duty before they can pick it up from the post office. It becomes incredibly complicated. And it means that it's really cost prohibitive to fans to buy stuff directly from us. So we realized that we can't carry on doing everything ourselves at this point. We need to have some kind of structure that's going to help us get our music out there, because whilst we're a UK band, we tour all over Europe, and we need to,
you want to sell your records to people that are close by that are seeing you.
As simple as that. We go and play a show, we want people after the show to be able to go and buy the record and it not be a massive hassle.
Right. Yeah, that makes a whole lot
of sense. It's very,
I mean, the easier it is for somebody to get your record, the better it is for everybody, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, so how do you then meet Kitty, and how does this band start?
So I'll give you the kind of the full story. Like,
let's hear it.
So I had auditioned. I'd been in a band, and that one that kind of failed. I'd been in other bands doing my own thing, but had done some touring, had some really cool experiences, like going to Asia and stuff, but never really felt like I had the band, like the 4 people or 5 people that this is it. Like, I want to spend all my time with these people and want to make music and feel really good about it. It was never quite there. And as a result of that, the projects always kept failing, or just didn't, they just fizzled out. It takes a lot of determination and energy to get it through to that level. So I thought, I'm going to stop trying to be a band leader and I'm just going to join someone else's band. And so I was looking around to find something, and I found this band just on the internet that were looking for a guitarist, but I loved the sound of their influences, and they sent me their very first track, and I just thought it was incredible. And they didn't even have a name at that point. I went and auditioned for them, and kind of got the job playing guitar. One thing after another happened, and suddenly the band I was in actually got asked to go and do this one final tour. So I had to be like, I want to play guitar for you guys, but I can't. I've got to go and do this thing. In the meantime, Kitty actually joined this band that I had just kind of snubbed, playing keyboard. So when I came back, I then went to see them play a show. I'd been my role that I had had for like 3 hours. I'd been replaced in it, you know, which was fine. There was no bad feeling about it at all. I went to see them, and Kitty was playing, and she was just playing keyboard and percussion in this 6-piece psychedelic rock band. But I thought she was just mesmerizing. I thought she was an incredible performer. She was like, you couldn't keep her eyes off her, because she had this like level of intensity that totally surpassed what the music really should have been allowing. You know, musically it was quite close to the Doors, or Mazzy Star, that kind of thing. And she was playing it with this kind of real intensity that hugely appealed to me. And so after the show, I spoke to her, and we got chatting, and realized that we shared some kind of musical taste and everything. And so I kind of convinced her to be like, well, let's try and do something musical together. Like, let's see if we can do something. And at that time in London, the prevailing musical environment was very much about psychedelia and like shoegaze music, like real drony, kind of fuzzy walls of sound, very buried vocals. It was very kind of cool, but in a way that I found a bit disconnected, and I didn't find that exciting. And Kitty felt the same, that what we really wanted was some people that we could see from the look in their eyes, they really meant what they were saying, they really meant what they were playing, and in the kind of like the true kind of rock and roll tradition, like would really perform, you know, really throw themselves at the song and be a bit more like bands like The Who or Jimi Hendrix, you know, these kind of classic era bands. And so we started Saint Agnes with the intention of, well, let's just write a few songs and see what comes out. And I could produce it. So we made some things, got a band together of some people that we pretty much the first people that responded to adverts. We just took them on, and we're like, let's go do some shows. And we told all the promoters that we were a psychedelic shoegaze band, just so that we could get the shows.
Get on the bill.
Yeah. And I mean, we definitely had an element of that in our sound, because that was kind of what was around at the time, and you couldn't really avoid some of it seeping into what you're doing. And it's not all bad at all. It was just the way it was presented, where everyone was just literally looking at their shoes and not performing, and not being, everyone looked like they didn't want to be there.
Right.
We took the opposite approach, and we just played like our lives depended on it, and we interacted a lot, and none of it was forced. We just had this like really exciting energy about what we were doing, and we loved it, and we didn't really care how many people were watching. We just knew that every time we play, it felt really electric, and the audience were like, whoa, you know, I'm in London, and I've gone to a small show, and there's been all these bands looking at their shoes, and then we're there like jumping out into the audience and doing crazy stuff and playing guitar solos and all this, you know, just really going for it. And the further we took it, the more we enjoyed it. We realized we want to be louder, more rocking, like more riffs, heavier. And I had grown up playing a lot more metal, but Kitty hadn't. So it was kind of interesting seeing through her eyes a real kind of freshness to like heavier music. Everything to her was like exciting and new. And it was exciting for me to see that from her. Really just kind of capitalized on that kind of almost naive approach of, let's just be the band that we wish we could go and see right now. Who, you know, we love Nine Inch Nails, we love Metallica, We love PJ Harvey. What are the things we like about these bands? Let's do that. You know, it was really quite straightforward in that approach. And we've really just been honing and developing that since. And it took a couple of years for us to feel like, oh, okay, we actually need to treat with a bit more responsibility. We can't just release any random song we want and chop and change our style on everything we're doing. We started to know what Saint Agnes was, and that actually maybe it had some sort of future. We were doing it so much for ourselves. We didn't really care about what anyone thought, or there was definitely no game plan about our career or anything. It was just, what can we do that we enjoy? It really changed when Andy, our drummer now, joined the band. He was so good and such a massive step up to what we had done before, that his drumming plus Kitty at that moment, because of Andy's drumming on stage, was so intense. You know, he's a real hard hitter, very exciting, really intense. It meant that Kitty's performance, she just overnight became wilder, crazier. And I loved watching what was happening. It was like, cool, when I get home, I'm going to write a song that's going to be perfect for the next show, that's going to allow this to happen more. I like what I'm seeing here. How can I play a part in helping facilitate that? And really, we've just been doing that ever since.
What at what point, or like what album was it when this all started to kind of take place? Or is it this new one?
Well, the first album is quite sonically. Welcome to Silvertown. We wrote that really not that long after Andy joined the band.
Okay. So that's kind of where the shift happened.
Yeah. So Andy joined the band, and then we toured it a lot. We toured it for a year, playing every single show we could. You know, we would play to 5 people or 500 people, supporting shows, headline shows, festivals. We just said yes to everything. We didn't worry about making money at all. We were just like, as long as we can put some fuel in the van, we'll just go. You know, it's just make happen. And we went all around Europe, all through Italy, playing kind of like punk squats and just crazy times. And we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about what we wanted to do. And we realized almost straight away that the music on that first album, we had written it really kind of still while we were a London band, and being out in the rest of the world, we realized, no, the material isn't allowing us to perform in the way that we really want to perform. There's a few songs on there that's allowing it. We still love the other stuff that's on there, but we can't, it's not the tool that we need to allow us to express ourselves on stage the way we want to do it. So the big change happened when we did the next EP, which is called The Family Strange. And I think the first song that we did on there was a song called Brother. And that was a real moment where we were like, cool, I think we've got our formula is the wrong word, but like our basic mindset that we can enter into for when we're beginning a Saint Agnes songwriting session and production and everything. And yeah, there was, I remember when we played that EP to our manager, he was like, fuck, you guys have changed a lot. What are we gonna do? Everything that we've sold you on has changed. And
right. It's a lot different now.
The network we've built up, everyone's gonna be, you're too heavy for it. You're too dark, you're too heavy, but we were like, well, this is just what we want to do. So if that's the case, we'll just have to build a new network. You know, that's just the way it's going to be. And that's exactly what we did. And just started playing that. We were so into it immediately. We so enjoyed what we were playing that I think anyone who was one of our audience members from the first album pretty much was just swept along with it, because it was so clear that actually we'd always been playing like this anyway. We just didn't have the material to allow us to do it. So from an audience member's point of view, the show wasn't that different. It was just that the disconnect between the material and the performance was less. The material and the performance now lived a lot more together. So it wasn't like we'd gone from being one band to another. It was just that we had finally become the band that we always kind of were being anyway on stage. We just weren't on record.
Right. Okay.
And then we did the Vampire EP, which was during lockdown.
I was
And
gonna
then,
ask because you put out the gosh, I just spaced on the name of the record. The Family Strange. You put that out in 2020, and that was before the pandemic.
yeah, that came out. I remember being in our flat in London, packing up all of the European orders, because this was still our own label at this point, and we knew we had to get to the post office the next morning because everything was closing the day after. It was the day. It was the last possible opportunity to post anything. And we did the pack up like socially distanced. At that point, we had no idea
What the hell's happening?
what's going on. So there's like me, Kitty, and Andy all in masks, opposite ends of the room, like with different piles of t-shirts and vinyl, packing all this stuff up, wondering, have we just, killed each other by getting in the same room?
Right.
We just didn't really know. And yeah, it was just a wild time. But yeah, we put that record out, and then Vampire was written during
the pandemic. Okay.
yeah, Kitty and I wrote that together. We really just wanted to do something during lockdown when it would have been easy to just stop and wait, but we lost our identity as musicians. We felt like we were just suddenly two people that just watched TV. That was it. We couldn't call ourselves musicians anymore because we weren't playing. So we set ourselves a goal of recording a cover and making a video for it, one a day for a week. We did that, and we called that the Quarantine Diaries, and we put those out on YouTube. And that really just got us like out of the kind of fog that lockdown had put us into. And in doing that process, we were like, oh, I kind of like the way in doing it this quickly and in doing everything ourselves on a computer, because there was super limited how we could do it, not being in a studio or anything.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is cool. I quite like how gnarly some of this sounds, how kind of ratty and garagey some of the sounds we're getting are. So then when we did the Vampire EP, we were like, well, we'll do it properly. We're still going to record the drums in a proper studio and everything, but we'll try and retain a lot of that approach in how we're going to actually record the rest of it. And that's what we did. And we've still retained that up until Bloodsuckers, the new record.
So that was done similar to the Vampire EP?
Yeah, probably even more DIY. So Vampire, like the timing of it worked out that actually we had to release it really soon after recording it, just because there was a window that we could, with our distributor, work something out. Totally boring business reasons for artistic. Sure. These things play a part in it.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so we were less hands-on with Vampire than we would have liked to have been. We really loved our demos, and then we went and recorded it. We lost some of the kind of chaos that was in our demos, and it got a little smartened up in the process that we didn't have time to go back and change. And I'm very happy with how it turned out, but I also know there's certain opportunities that were missed that kind of like they were just in the back of our minds. So when we came to do Bloodsuckers, the label were like, you know your process, you do it the way you want to do it. So we went and recorded drums in a studio that's in the hull of a boat.
Wow.
It's right next to the Millennium Dome in London, like the O2 venue. There's on the river through there, there's this red boat that's like a mobile lighthouse, basically. It's been converted into a studio, and we went and did the drums there, and we slept on the boat. Like, it's me, Kitty, and Andy. Our bass player Ben had left by this point, so it's just the three of us, which kind of worked really well. We're like the three that were like tightest in the band, and we really had a vision about what we wanted to go and do. And so we just went and did all the drums there, a few little bits of guitar and bass, but knew that really what we wanted to do is get the drums, get it back to our home studio, and then just spend time on it. And for Kitty and I, time isn't about making it perfect in a iron out every wrinkle. The time is about having the opportunity to make mistakes, to explore ideas, and sometimes to go, you know what, this sounds too perfect. We need to scrap some of this and go into it with a new, fresh energy so that it can be more exciting and explosive. Because actually, for some musicians, the first time they play it will be the most exciting, and then it becomes more sanitized over time.
Yeah.
For us, when we're recording guitars in particular, it's the other way around. The first time we play it, it tends to be fairly stock, and it takes a little bit of time of playing it and finding the little moments that we can put interesting things in. And that takes, you know, that might take a few days of playing around with things and going, you know what, I can't find a way to make this unique or interesting. I need to rethink it, having that time to really develop it. And so that's what we did. You know, we took our time to really develop the sound of it and make it as abrasive as we could, as possible, without it becoming unlistenable. That was always our goal. Like, how can we make it so the guitars still have all the excitement of an electric guitar, but don't just sound like a Les Paul through a Marshall stack? You know, we've heard that. I've heard that. That sounds amazing, but I've heard it a million times. Like, what can we do that's different? We were looking at every single aspect and being like, how can we have all the excitement that you get from those great rock things, but do it in a different way. And it was the first time that we opened the doors to having someone else involved with us, and it was a guy called Sean Beavan.
I know Sean. I know him. I've had him on my show before.
Okay, so Sean,
he's in a band with his wife, 8mm.
8mm, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But he's also worked with, you know, Manson and Trent
Nine Inch
Reznor.
Nails, and
Yeah.
that for us is huge. Like, 9 Inch Nails is our big kind of touchstone as a band of like kind of the artistic goal of someone who's that brave in just doing something different and willing to kind of sabotage their own music enough to take it somewhere unconventional. And
so how did you meet Sean? Yeah, how'd you guys link up?
We just approached him. We made a list of, our manager was like, if you could work with one person on the record, who would it be? And we made a very, very short list, and Sean was at the top. And so we just reached out to him, and, you know, we didn't have like an insane budget to work on a whole album with him. And then we actually didn't want to. We were like, we just want to work on one song and then use that as a kind of jumping off point for the rest of the album. Because Kitty, there's like a big personal kind of side to the whole record, which is the tour before starting the album. Kitty's mum died unexpectedly at a very young age. It was totally out of the blue and incredibly traumatic for Kitty.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really hit, you know, it's a big blow for Kitty. And she actually passed away on it was the first day of a tour that we were doing, and Kitty's family had said to her, you know, you should go and do this tour. You know, what better place to try and heal than being with your best friends, doing something you really love with music that's really cathartic, rather than sitting at home feeling terrible, you know. So that's what she did. She embraced it, and we were really supportive of, you know, her decision, whichever way it was going to go. And she was like, no, I want to do the tour. And we went and did it, and it was an incredibly bonding experience. And we had some ideas of what we wanted to do with the album at that point, but it was still a way off, and it felt a million miles away at that point, just because it was all about just getting to the next show, Kitty doing the sound check. Is she going to make it onto stage? You know, like, is she going to make it to the end of the gig? Like, and trying to be really careful with her at the same time as respecting her decision to be like, I'm going to do this. And she was like, just magnificent, you know, the total commitment to just going for it and living in the moment and allowing the tears to come on stage if they happened. And I think the audiences really sensed that something momentous was happening to her, and they seemed to really respond. There felt like this incredible warmth in the crowds. And it was just after lockdown had ended, so a lot of people in the audience probably had lost family members or knew people who had been affected. So I think that there was like a shared joy at music returning to our lives at the same time as a real kind of grief for the loss of what had happened on a personal level for so many people. And that mixture of emotions kind of took us into the writing and recording of the album. And that played a huge part in what we wanted to do. And Kitty said to us early on, losing her mum really put into sharp contrast what was important in life and what was just a load of bullshit nonsense. And she was like, worrying about what people are going to like, worrying about what people are going to think about me are just, they're bullshit. Making something I love, making something that has a reason to exist is what's important. So I'm going to write lyrics about how I feel right now and just totally explore the wound, you know, while it's fresh, just go for it, which she would be totally forgiven for not doing that, you know, at the point.
Right, because a lot of people would, like, they either want to do that or they can't do that, right?
Yeah.
That's something that they wouldn't be able to write about for years to come.
Absolutely. And there was no pressure from management or the label or anything to start the album. No one was saying you need to go get this done, but Kitty was very much like, let's do it, you know, let's go for it. I'm gonna just ride the wave of emotion and see what happens. And because we were recording ourselves, we weren't in a studio with a, you know, watching the clock with Kitty having to sing 5 songs in a day or something. It was just at home in our shared home studio, being able to be like, today, Kitty's like, today I feel like I want to sing that song. Like, I've written some words just now, I want to sing that song, I'm just going to go for it, hand me a microphone, I'm going to go do it. Which all of that approach came about because of doing it with Sean Beavan. So the very first song that we did is a song called Follow You, which is coming out with the album on the 21st. That's going to be like the focus track. And we'd written the song, we really loved it, but we were really daunted by the process of starting the recording process because we were coming from such an emotional place that it felt like to even get to the start line had been exhausting and had taken a lot out of us. And we for us, we had a rare moment of kind of self-doubt of like, should we be doing this in a more expensive way? Should we actually be having really fancy vocal sounds and using a very expensive microphone, which we had access to, you know, we were very lucky a company had sent us this like beautiful equipment and everything, but we were like, this doesn't feel like our way of doing things. We're more a kind of garage kind of approach. And Sean heard our demo and was like, whatever you did on that, just do that, just keep going in that direction. And we were like, well, you know, we're really open to ideas. And he goes, well, Trent Reznor just used a handheld live microphone with the music up really loud in the control room and just went fucking crazy. And he was like, I think Kitty should just do that. And that's what we did. And
that's awesome.
It was incredible. It just, the fact that he loved the demo and just was like, just do the thing you're doing, but even more so, it gave us permission to just be ourselves 100%. And he sent back his mix and we were like, well, he's taken this kind of aggression and the chaos of it and made it even more abrasive. And, you know, I knew that there were going to be some people be like, shit, maybe you've ruined a potentially like radio friendly song, but we loved it. We loved how brave it was. And it exactly embodied what Kitty had said, where it's like, make something we love, not something we think people are going to like. And we, as soon as we had that, we just ran with it for the rest of the album, that process. And just, you know, we would say to each other, what would Sean say we should do right now? That's what we're going to do. And it worked really, really well. And it meant that we got performances, vocal performances that we would never have captured if we'd done it in a more conventional way, where you feel like the red light fever, you know, now you're recording your main vocal for your radio hit that's going to be pushed to all the, you know, it was just like, there's a microphone, you've just written the words, you're feeling the emotion 100% raw. Whatever you record, let's just do it, let's hear it. And Kitty would just do it. And you know, you can hear the microphone hitting the wall at the end of one of the songs when she just was overcome with emotion. And just, you know, I turned around, I had headphones on thinking this take that she's singing sounds fucking incredible. Heard this loud bang, saw the microphone hit the wall, and turned around and saw Kitty on the floor, like really distraught, emotionally distraught and emotionally spent from singing the take. And I had a kind of moment of where I was torn in two, really. Half of me felt so guilty that she had given this much, and the other half was like, but I know that she's gonna tomorrow listen to this take and go, yes,
Yeah,
that's it,
exactly.
that's it, captured like forever. And that's exactly what happened.
I was gonna say it probably allowed for way more vulnerability on her part to be able to just go in and do whatever the hell she wanted to do, and not have to, like you said, not be looking at the red light. Okay, this is costing this much money. I got one chance. And when I interviewed Sean Beavan, we went to his house, and just his setup, like the way he was working on something. I don't know what it was at the time. I mean, this was like, I don't know, four years ago or something. But yeah, he just has his like mixer, his board set up, and his things, and it's just like in his like living room, and the way he works is like super chill. And I'm not surprised that he was like, yeah, Reznor did it this way, just do it like that. I mean, that's the best, because those are the best takes, I would think. I've even had, it was interesting because I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier, when you were talking about the guitar parts, like how a lot of people, you know, when they do a piece, like if they want to use the first take, because the more you do it, it becomes like stale in that way. But I feel like when I've interviewed other artists that talk about that with their vocal, it's like, especially during like the quarantine, like they'll take a take of like with a, you know, 58 Shure mic in the closet and sing something, and then have it just record on their computer, and then they'll go to the studio and use like a Neumann $10,000 mic or whatever, and then it's like it just doesn't work as well because the emotion isn't there, because they're trying to recreate this moment. And I feel like what you're saying with like Kitty's take, it's like that moment, you felt bad because of what was happening, but it's also like you said, like that moment was captured, and it would be impossible to replicate it a second time.
That's it. That's 100% it. And it's whether some things work best the first time you do it, sometimes you need to do them 1,000 times before you get them right. And there's no real rule about it. You just, the thing that you let guide you is it making me feel the thing that I want this to make me feel? That's ultimately the decision-making process. And that's what we did. And I think that for Kitty, there would have been no other way of recording this album other than the way we did it, because it was so reliant on, you know, it's 10 o'clock at night. I haven't done any, I've been just in bed all day, just feeling shit. But right now I'm really up for like going and playing guitar on something. Is there something that needs some guitar? And I'd bring up a song, be like, cool, I'm, you know, have a go at this one, you know, and she would play some guitar on something, and she plays very differently to me. And even if we're playing the exact same part, I can always tell which one's whose is whose quite easily. And she always brings something new to what we're doing. And so there's guitar, the way we make stuff is very patchwork. There's no set thing about, oh, I play the guitar part here, she's going to play the guitar part there. And it's just whoever's got the guitar in their hands that time, or is feeling the most in the mood, or whoever's running with the most enthusiasm in that second. And it's the same with the bass. We didn't have a bass player, so Kitty and I played bass on the record, and I couldn't tell you who plays what where, like you know, because some of the songs developed once we had recorded the drums. We got back and we were like, actually, you know, maybe this riff in the verses could be better, you know, maybe what we had as our basic idea could be better. We've got the drums, so that's set in stone, so we've got to play something to that, but let's rewrite it. And so I might have recorded the bass on the whole song, but would say, I can't think of anything new for this verse, you have a go. And Kitty would take the bass and play some stuff in the verse, and I'd be like, that's it, that's the thing. So we'd chop that into that part, so the song would be all me except the first verse maybe would be Kitty. And I can't remember where those things happened. You know,
Right.
there was many like it that to try and keep track of it. So if I listened to it isolated, I could probably figure it out because we play slightly different to each other. Kitty plays really hard, and I would probably be able to figure it out. But on the whole, like when I listen back to the record in the whole mix, I have no idea who's playing what. Yeah, as I said, Sean Beavan really helped guide us with that approach of just do your thing, trust yourself, don't think that there's a better way to do something other than what gets you the result that excites you, and just go with that and make art. You know, as he kept saying, you know, like Trent Reznor, they were in those records, those Nine Inch Nails records, you can hold them up now and go, these are an archetype of a certain genre. He goes, but at the time they were, you know, the label that they turned the first record into referred to the first Nine Inch Nails album as an abortion. You know, he was like, you know, you've ruined your career before it's begun because it sounds so bad.
Right.
People just weren't ready for it. That was the problem. And we're taking the same approach, really, like of trying to be brave, trying to do something different, you know, use the rock form, everything we love about the rock format, but take it to somewhere new and embrace the fact that we were feeling so emotionally raw and so kind of like angry with the world, and feeling the three of us like a deep love for each other. So there's a real kind of us against the world feel to the whole record that I'm still like 6 months after finishing it, still really enjoy it when I listen to it, which is rare. Normally hate it by this point.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, John, for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to hear the record. What do you remember what song it was that you're talking about where she dropped the mic?
Yeah, so that's a song called Animal, which actually we've released.
You've already released that one. Okay. I was just curious.
If you listen to it, it's in the very last chorus. It's pretty much the last line of the song. You hear this big thump. It's in there still. So you can.
Okay, I'll have to re-listen to it. But I have one more question. You've kind of been doing this throughout the entire interview, which is amazing. But I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think my main piece of advice is just think about what it is that you want to achieve and why you're doing what you're doing. Just be honest with yourself. And if it's that you are someone that the most exciting thing in the world to you would be to work with loads of top flight artists and play guitar on those people's records, then look at being a session player, look at networking and take that approach. If you're someone that's like, I want to record myself like me, I want to write my own music, and you're doing that because there's something that you really want to say, then you need to pursue that and find the people who are going to allow you to pursue that, and accept that you will come up against barriers of, you know, ultimately the industry is about making money. There will be people going, you shouldn't do that, there's a better way to go about it, because they're more interested in making money. So you need to know when to say no and just say, it's more important to me that I make something I love than it is to make something that maybe other people might really love, but I don't feel anything for. So it's just be honest with yourself, be honest with the people that you're involved with, and accept the limitations that might put on you, and run with it. Don't be scared, be bold, you know, do your thing. There's no one who knows how to do your style better than you know how to do it. You know, everyone has their unique voice. There's no point trying to copy someone else. Just look at your heroes and think what they would have, the approach they would have taken. Don't try and sound like them. You know, I think that's the overarching message. If I could talk to my younger self, that would be it.